there, and welcome to my first chapter of the free Wellbeing Programme just for you. My name is Julie and I'm from True You Therapy, a company set up to provide healthy and happy minds and well-being. And today I'm looking forward to discussing the subject of happiness and how our thought patterns can affect our own feelings of happiness and contentment. So, is achieving happiness something on your bucket list? Is it maybe something desired but just slightly out of reach? Do you ever wonder when you will be happy? Perhaps when you have a bigger house, more money, maybe lose weight? A lot of us believe that external things will make us happier, and maybe they will improve our lives in some way. But have you ever noticed that once you have achieved your big thing, the feeling of happiness is often fleeting and you find yourself aiming your sights further and higher on another goal in order to achieve this feeling of happiness? The truth is, happiness cannot be achieved through material gains, but rather a change in our thinking. We need to relook at how we see things, how we think about things. You see, your thoughts are so very important in how we feel and how happy we are. Now, let's dig into this in a little more detail. Researchers have looked at the differences between two groups of people. Group A were people who described themselves as being happy, and Group B, people who described themselves as being unhappy. I wonder which group you maybe could identify with. But why do you think that Group A believe themselves to be happy? Do you think that they may have the bigger houses, the more money, and perhaps are in a healthy weight category, or maybe they haven't had so much suffering in their lives? Well, you may be surprised to hear that Group A and Group B didn't differ at all in their circumstances. So how can we explain what is the difference between the two groups? Why can one person be happy and another sad when they are faced with the same situations? If our life situation doesn't determine our feelings, then what does? Well, it comes down to our perspective, or put another way, how we think and therefore feel about our life. Our reaction to life events is 10% of what happens to us and 90% of how we react to it. I'm sure you will have heard the well-known question, is your glass half full or half empty? By understanding this, it helps us to think about our own perspective and outlook. Would you describe yourself more as an optimistic person with a cup half full of water, or is your cup half empty? Let's consider this in this example of a situation. So imagine that rumours have been going around the workplace that redundancies are soon to be announced. Now, Sarah and Tom each have different thoughts about the possibility of losing their job. Sarah is feeling confident and almost a little excited about the idea of a new job, whereas in contrast, Tom is feeling anxious and defeated. They are both faced with exactly the same situation, but are experiencing quite different physical and emotional reactions. This is due to one fundamental difference, which is nothing to do with the pending redundancy, but rather their perspective. Sarah's perspective is, this was unexpected, but I could see this as an opportunity. I think I'll make a list of contacts and agencies and see what possibilities there might be. It may feel a little scary, but I feel ready for a change. Whereas Tom's thinking goes a little bit more like, this is a disaster. It's not fair. I feel angry and frustrated at my boss, and I'm worried I won't be able to get a new job. I knew I should have never have taken this job. I should have just stayed in my old job. Tom has become stuck in his ways of thinking about the possible redundancies. This is a fixed mindset. His thoughts limit and narrow his opportunity and choices. His negative thinking creates a spiral of unhelpful thoughts and difficult and anxious feelings. Whereas Sarah's thinking reflects an open mind and is not fearful of change, a growth mindset. This drives her ideas, thoughts and actions. Her positive thinking brings hope that events can turn out for the best. So looking closely at these example, the reality is that the situation, which is the redundancy, is irrelevant. It's all about perspective, the way in which we view life situations. Take Sarah and Tom. It's clear that neither know what the future holds, but Tom is seeing the glass as half empty, while Sarah believes it is half full. An important point just from this example is that although Sarah had a more optimistic perspective, she still felt scared. Having a more positive perspective doesn't mean that you are always going to be overjoyed and happy. People with more positive thoughts still feel sad and angry and frustrated at times. A positive perspective simply allows them to manage this in a more helpful way that doesn't make a difficult situation worse. Did you know that our actual spoken words can average around 500 words a minute, but our self-talk going on in our mind averages about 1,500 words a minute? We constantly have an inner running dialogue going on in our minds, and this self-talk directs our thoughts, behaviours and actions. It's therefore good to notice the type of thoughts that you are thinking. Some thoughts can be neutral, like observations of day-to-day events, maybe it's raining. And as we know, some other thoughts can be negative, and we have all experienced this type of thinking. We interpret situations and events with a rather pessimistic view, just like Tom. Thoughts like, this is never going to work, or it's just not fair. On the other hand, positive thoughts, a bit like Sarah's, can be constructive and allow you to perceive life experiences in an optimistic way. Remember, your thoughts then direct your behaviour and actions. Now, you might argue that you are not able to control your thoughts and that they just happen. Research has shown that with practice and self-awareness, we are able to have a choice in the things that we think about and how we think. For me at True You, this is the exciting bit. We are able to make these changes in the way that we think. Negative thought patterns can be overcome, and you can learn to think in a more positive way. And because your thoughts drive your behaviour, actions, and ultimately your mood, you can obtain that feeling of happiness, not by striving for material goals, but by turning inwards and reflecting on your own thought patterns. By changing the way you speak to yourself and to others, and recognising your patterns, you can reprogram your mind. So you ask how? The first step is to begin to recognise our thoughts. And today, I would like you to set an alarm on your phone or clock to sound 5 times throughout the day. When the alarm sounds, I want you to write down what you were thinking. The next step is to question these thoughts. You may find that there's a downloadable worksheet on the True You website that could help you with this. For any negative thoughts, ask yourself, where is the evidence for this thought? If you are doubting your ability in a task, ask yourself, why can't I do that? Says who? Notice the patterns of your thoughts. How detailed does your imagination go into a story that only you are creating? And then stop and ask how much of this is true. This takes time and practice, but once you begin to change how you think, the new positive neural pathways are formed, which become stronger and deeper. Eventually, they will replace the old ways of thinking and behaving. You will have rewired or reprogrammed your brain. So go ahead and set that alarm. That's great work today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we'll explore how our thoughts change our emotions and behaviours. So take care, be true to yourself, and keep the love.